A child gives birth to another child as a result of teenage pregnancy. The teenage pregnancy is perpetuated by abuse of alcohol and different substances. The child ends up fending for diapers for another child, fending for her own food and for another child. She gets stressed, education cannot continue, she cannot get a good skilled job because she did not have enough skills, and the poverty cycles begin and rotates. Child mortality increases, and it is stress on top of stress. Ladies and gentlemen, our topic today is on teenage pregnancy. If we listen to them, we shall be able to save millions of money that is otherwise spent in hospitals. The child is born disabled, and many other atrocities that do face a child who gives birth to another child. I take this opportunity to welcome you to my video. As you watch, remember to like, subscribe, and comment. Feel free to share. Teenage pregnancies refers to a child below the age of 18 getting pregnant and giving birth to a child. Now, when we have a child like that giving birth, what type of society do we have? We examine the causes of teenage pregnancy. Teenage pregnancy is caused by alcohol and substance misuse. When one is misusing alcohol, when one is using different substances, e.g. opium, then that is the time you get to do anything and the child is conceived. Remember, alcohol can even be illicit alcohol. We have peer pressure. You want to do the way your age mates do. Watching pornography and experimenting, that leads to early pregnancies. Relatives do prey on innocent young girls, and as a result, they end up conceiving. We are talking of ages 10 to 18. We have cases of rape. Rape does occur from close persons to the child. For example, the domestic worker who knows the child very well, the teachers, they know the child very well, religious persons, they know the child very well, and also relatives. They do make the child to conceive, and then most of the time they take off. We also have cultural practices. Ladies and gentlemen, there are some of us who come from Africa, and some parts of Africa, we have a culture of feeling if you have HIV/AIDS, human immunodeficiency virus, you go with a young girl and you cleanse yourself of the virus. So such cultural practices of cleansing themselves because of certain diseases is the archaic to begin with, and then in the process of you going with a virgin, you end up making the virgin to conceive. We also have broken families where divorce and separation has been the norm. Now, once that family is the way it is, the parents have separated or they have divorced, then sometimes attention to the girl is not given emphasis, and as a result, the child ends up conceiving and giving birth to a child when she herself is still another child. We also have poverty. Extreme poverty leads to a child being enticed by different goodies, and she ends up conceiving. Those are negative values, negative norms that the child identifies herself with, and she ends up giving birth to another child. So the adults who sometimes do this, because conception is not only by fellow teenagers, sometimes it's from adults, including those around the child or the teachers. So the adults give the girls goodies such as alcohol, drugs, money for sanitary towels, money for other small items such as pens and pencils, and they end up in the family way. Another cause is inadequate social sexual awareness. As we all know, most schools in Africa give sex education, just talking about HIV/AIDS, sexually transmitted diseases like syphilis, gonorrhea. They hardly talk about the reproduction aspect. They feel the child is too young to be informed about reproduction issues. As a result, the child ends up conceiving. And that is the reality, my audience. That is the reality of what happens. Insecurity in the community and the absence of mentorship programs ends up making this girl to be in the family way. Insecurity hereby, I mean, as one is going home, sometimes after coming from school, let somebody ambushes her in the bush. Or the person knows the path the child uses. As a result, the child conceives. That's insecurity in the community. Mentorship, people are very busy looking for how to make ends meet. They need money for housing, they need money to pay for water, to pay for electricity, and other basics. They do not have time to gather girls together and offer some common understanding, common education on how the child can be able to survive. Ladies and gentlemen, we also know that our girls do have long holidays without activities to engage them as youth. So it can't be reading and reading. And as the saying goes, if you make Tom read and there is no other sport, then he becomes a dull boy. So it's for the girl. So if it's reading and doing just some few house chores, reading, then the child gets chance to start experimenting. They have time to watch pornography. They have time to talk to male friends. And as a result, that is when the casual sex comes in. We all remember in about 2 years ago, when we had COVID-19, there was a lockdown due to COVID-19. And that lockdown led to girls spending a lot of time at home. As you know, the lockdown did not make people go for holiday. It was more of you are indoors. As a result, experiments took place and very many girls conceived, and of course, depending on where the child stays, the rates or the numbers differed from one to another, but we're talking of general statistics, they were very high. These girls fell out of institutions of higher learning, and then what did we see? A child giving birth to another child. Remember, not all of them give birth. Some of them get complications during pregnancy and even during birth, leading to death of both mother and child. Sometimes disability of both mother and child. Health issues such as miscarriage, being anemic, the child wants to bring another mouth in the family. You look at that child from a scorn point of view. And as a result of having no love for the expected girl, you may not give her the right nutrition. She ends up being anemic. Another effect is the levels of education get lowered. The child cannot get good education because after delivery, nobody bothers to take the child back to school. As a result, she will not have good skills to look for to get employed. So reduced access to education does occur. The rate of the number of children falling out of school will be high because they conceived and nobody bothered to take them back to school. Ladies and gentlemen, that is the reality. We bring isolation because the girl became expectant, and because of that isolation, it goes with stigmatization at different levels. Stigma from fellow friends, stigma from the school, yet the other girls are not envying her. She's sent away because of her being in a mother situation. She goes to look for a job, whether it is manual work or any other type of employment. Someone has already labeled her as an expectant mother or one who delivered and will keep on looking for off days to take the child to the health center. So employment opportunities are reduced. Remember, there's less income for this girl. If you can't get a job, then where do you get the money to put a diaper to the child, to put some little milk on the table for the child? It is a big issue. We also have risks of acquiring other diseases that compromise the health of both the child who gave birth and the child who was born. And those risks are very many. Some are due to nutrition, some are due to the fact that in the process of conceiving, whoever you made love with infected you with some disease. The newborn child, you did not go for antenatal, you were hiding and started the antenatal clinics late, so also the child may be born with some condition. There's increase in poverty as one sinks into real problems. If you are expectant, your mother is struggling to pay your fees, your father is struggling to look for money to give you the right education, it's very difficult. Another negative effect that may affect the child who has given birth to another child is abortion. They try to see how to get rid of the child. Sometimes they die in the process. And death can also be as a result of miscarriage and overbleed, or during delivery, you did not go to hospital in time. Sometimes due to the fact that you will need to pay some money and the money is not there. You try to deliver at home and complications occur. You are too young. The midwife cannot deliver that child. You end up dying together with your child. Another effect of teenage pregnancy is stress to the person who is expectant, the child, and those who depend, and the person the child depends on. They also feel stressed. They have been having 1 month. Now they'll be having 2 months to feed. A child does not have anything. You again need to help the child get a free dress to carry her pregnancy in. Yet you were looking for the uniform and it was not easy to afford one. So the child gets herself into such problems. And my listeners, be assured, the man, whether an adult or a fellow teenager, most of the time they take off the moment the girl says, I'm expectant. And where applicable, they continue with their education if the boys were in the same class with the girl, but the girl falls out. We do have gaps in dealing with teenage pregnancies. Different countries experience different gaps depending on their setups. For example, we have those ones who bury their heads in sand continually while ignoring the fact that teens are sexually active by age 14. We avoid the truth on researched and documented literature on teenage pregnancies. And as a result, the teenagers continue conceiving and we keep on saying, oh, the child had bad manners. There's no bad manners. Let us see what we can do about teenage pregnancies than using that terminology of bad manners when the truth is these girls are trying to do 1 or 2 things that probably when others were growing up, they did not do simply because they got married too early. Ignoring all stakeholders in our interventions may not be the issue. It will only compound the teenage pregnancy if we ignore. Let us embrace all stakeholders so that they can give us their way of intervening. And those interventions, when put together from different stakeholders, we can have a team that can help us transform the issue of teenage pregnancy. We have opposing voices that come from conservatives, particularly the religious teams, who believe sex education will lead or always leads to promiscuity. They're entitled to their opinion. We also have political interference from different politicians who keep on uttering words, yes, but action is limited. We do have limited knowledge by teenagers on reproductive health. Those are gaps. Failure to develop homegrown solutions in a participatory manner, a manner that involves the teenager, is a gap. Negative criticism to proposed policy changes is a gap. Now, from the religious to the political to the teenager themselves, if we keep on saying these are gaps, are we actually solving the issue of teenage pregnancy? Are we solving the issue of teenage pregnancy? Approaching the issue of teenage pregnancy in piecemeal does not help. We need to approach it in a holistic manner, a manner that is participatory with all stakeholders. Not that this particular church says this other particular religious body says this, and at the end of the day, the solution is meant for this particular Christian or the Muslim or the Hindus. We can't reach far as a society. Failure to develop those homegrown solutions is what leads to negative criticism. Any proposed policy change will meet negative criticism. We should look at actually positive criticism. Give access to reproductive health information. Of course, access in a limited manner. I'm not saying here we start giving condoms and we start giving pills to the children, but let them know what it means to be a lady or a man. Have a coordinated approach. It's important to have a coordinated approach that involves all stakeholders, from household to church to school and to community, plus the workplaces. My audience, we have a workplace approach, for example, that is coordinated. Then a teacher will see a child she is teaching as the daughter. And any teenage pregnancy coming from the teacher will meet the action on time that it deserves. And so will it be the church in terms of the pastors, and so will be the household in terms of domestic workers and the relatives who may be staying and praying with the child at night. Young teenage mothers should be assisted to acquire computer skills and other entrepreneurial skills to help them start income generating activities. And this one I appeal even to our donors. If for sure you are interested in reducing poverty, let us also remember to, at least in our interventions, to have the empowerment of the girl child. Legal actions should be taken against adults who impregnate school children and put in place return to school policies for the young mothers. Remember to hit the subscribe button so that you get notified when our next video is out. Thank you.